This is a Gas Backhoe. I'm going to go over a few things with you on how to service this. We'll go ahead and check out with our fluids. Check the levels of it. Risk on the oil, you want it to be on the top line, right underneath the F. When you pull this out, you may have to clean it off. Next, while we're over here in this area, we're going to check our filter on the top area of this engine. Now on these air filters on the Kohler engines, if they have a filter on the top of them, what we're going to do with these is we're going to take a 1030 oil and rub on the outer filter, and we're going to tap the inner filter out. We do need to check for visibility of light through the filter elements. We're going to tap the outer filter out with the inner filter. You can see there's a little bit of dirt coming out of it. You don't want to hit it too hard and bend the actual filter elements. Just enough to get it out. And after that, once you've determined good light visibility, we'll take our 1030 weight oil and we're going to rub it into the filter on this part right here. It's going to help some of that dirt particles not get into the engine itself. We're just going to take some of this 1030 weight oil. Same thing we're going to put in the engine. I'm just going to mat it into it. You don't want it to be overly saturated, just rubbed into it. And we'll just take a towel and just kind of wipe out. Replace it. Alright, after checking the air filter, generally when you're passing by you might check your battery over here. This one you can see there's a little bit of corrosion on here. You can see we're going to have a chapter labeled as the correct way to clean a battery. Anytime you're working around it, make sure you wear safety glasses. But if you ever get into this, just look up the video on the computer. It'll show you how to clean it off and what to use. Next we're going to check the hydraulic fluid. Looks like whoever serviced this last put too much in it, as you can see. This thing needs to be in between the red and the black line. If you get into something like this, you're going to need to drain it. You don't want to drain it all. Just there's a little cork down here. Just unscrew it just a little bit to drain out the oil. But we, on general, on these backhoes, when we're checking hydraulic fluid, we need to have this thing in a tow position, which is just like this. This is going to have all the cylinders at neutral. It's going to show you the actual hydraulic capacity in the tank. So whenever you're checking the hydraulic fluid on this machine, make sure it's in this position. Next after that, we're going to go and we're going to check our fuel. We generally go 1 to 2 inches from the top. So we don't ever fill them all the way up, just because they can come out. They are vented caps. Once we've got our fluids checked on these machines, we can go in and check the tires after that. Tire pressure on these, they need to be 45 in the rear and 35 in the front. Some of our backhoes, they have foam-filled tires in the front, so if you ever run into one that won't take care, that's probably why. During this whole process, while you're walking around the machine, checking your oil and your tire pressures, you may check for loose nuts and bolts while you're doing that. Just kind of knock out 2 things at once. Generally, I grease this thing last, just because you got to pull the arms all the way out, and to get a correct fluid level, you've got to have it in this position. So now we're going to grease it. So we're going to go ahead and get everything positioned where we can get grease guns to them. In this position, you should be able to hit every grease fitting on this thing. There's going to be a couple of these you may need to use a flex tube grease gun on, which are going to be your front 2 pins. These are real common to get broke just because they're in a dirt area. You may have to change them out. You have to change them. We'll probably have a video on that, how the best way to do it. We're just going to pump these. Go ahead and get both of these up while we're up here. This should be the only ones that you have to use this flex tube on this machine, I believe. These things have grease fittings hidden all over them. You've got them up on the tops up here. They're similar to the diesel. There may be a couple of different ones on this one. Just remember, every pivot point usually has a grease fitting, maybe even 2, one on each side of it. The one that I usually get people on if I'm double checking them after they service is the one that's sitting down here on the grease panel. That's for your foot pedal grease fitting. Get one on the end of these. Sometimes you may have to take a little screwdriver with you and clean out the dirt around the grease fitting so you can get the gun tip actually into it. This one also has a hidden one down here on the bottom. Go ahead and keep moving on over here.
it's not like every 30 days now. It's every 3 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, they'll tell you, it's due by the 30th. When they know damn well your money really don't come in the first of the fucking week. So they can charge you extra $5 on that charge. Yeah, my dad was every time I go pay my dad $3, they're going to charge me $3.
And that should be all the grease fittings on this machine. Alright, now we want to complete the service, we want to make sure everything's good on the control wise, make sure our handles are tight, make sure everything's moving. Sometimes you can make adjustments down inside of this housing here to your joystick controls, but generally, most of the times they're not loose, but if they are, we'll make a video probably here soon about how to fix it and how to adjust them. But this right here, this is good. Then we go back to our back controls here. Check them, these are good and firm. No play in them, that's good. You generally want to make just a quick inspection. Make sure you don't have any loose bolts or missing nuts or anything like that. You can generally just flop the seat up and find stuff that's missing pretty quick. So, I know every once in a while I'll find a loose seat bolt here. These look good. So once you've determined everything's panned out, then basically the service is over and it's ready to tag it. That's about all on the Gas Backhoe.